And our next contributor would be Anna Ujlaki. She is from Hungary, so she is in the room, she is on spot, and happy to have her also as a co-moderator. She is very deep in research, in specific in political theory research. And if you read by the announced abstract what she is doing and what is her concern, I must say it's fascinating, but it's also very challenging. So I'm really amazed, Anna, if you will manage in a short amount of time which you have to make that presentation, to make us understand what political theory perspective on AI will be. The floor is yours. Please start.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me online as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So, hi everyone, I am Anna Ujlaki, and today I would like to provide a critical review of the political theoretical discourse on artificial intelligence, with special attention to the question of regulation. My aim is to highlight the specific characteristics of the current literature and its inherent limitations, and to outline some potential directions of expansion. Why is this important? What can we learn from addressing the regulation of AI from a political theory perspective? You may ask rightly. The aim of political theory is to theorize, critique, and diagnose the norms, practices, and organization of political action in the past and present in our own places and elsewhere, according to the Oxford Handbook of Political Theory. So political theory is sometimes quite practical, but as you can see from this quote, and as you may well justifiably think, it can be very abstract sometimes. I believe that this abstraction helps us to reflect on the overall context of AI regulation and to understand our possibilities in it. Political theory starts from the fundamental questions of social cooperation, from the ultimate questions of war and peace and the circumstances of peaceful coexistence, to the detailed questions of political participation, manipulation, and nudging of voters. Whatever we happen to believe about AI technology and whichever dimension of it we are focusing on, most of us would agree that it is precisely these fundamental matters that AI challenges to some extent. Since AI is becoming not only a more and more relevant subject of politics, but also some kind of political agent or actor itself, it is meaningful to ask how should we address its integration into society and politics. The upshot for this presentation is that, in my view, although the literature addresses several aspects of AI from this perspective, it does not utilize its potential to understand its relevance properly, although we can learn multiple things from understanding AI through political theory, and it could offer us guidance for proposing the practical answers of how to respond to AI-related challenges. So in the following, I attempt to sketch an overview of the political theoretical inquiry of AI by differentiating between four aspects. First, I address the literature's conceptual characteristics and limitations. Then I address its normative questions. Third, I highlight the main differences between alternative contemporary political theoretical approaches. And finally, I talk about the level of abstraction by which the literature addresses AI. Through these dimensions, I hope I can show you that no matter how unprecedented a challenge AI may seem, humanity has indeed faced very similar questions, in the realm of politics at least, to those we are now encountering. The political theoretical literature surrounding AI focuses mainly on the possible clash between humans and machines. The two main questions that dominate this discourse are: what are the guidelines for the regulation of AI, and how should these be effectively implemented? And the other most important question for the literature is the rights owed to AI, specifically to human-like robots. I won't talk a lot about regulation and actual ethical guidelines and values here, partly because there are others in the room who can tell us a lot about that more elegantly than I could do, and partly because my overall aim is to invite you to take a step back and think about the whole context in which these practical questions and challenges arise. Political theory shows that these questions stem from the well-known dilemmas of the normative foundations of the coordination of human social activities. These questions concern how AI, in whatever current or future form, can be integrated into human society, what role it might play in human coordination, and what normative principles should guide its integration. But before investigating these normative principles, whose design is one of the main tasks of political theory, we should reflect on the concepts and their particular conceptions that are used by political theorists. I would like to highlight one concept, which is the conception, which is the conception of civilizational level threats of AI technology. So different scholars emphasize different dimensions of the perceived civilizational threat posed by AI. Existential risks, risk serves as a paradigm for AGI ethics. There are debates regarding the fundamental values of social and political life that are threatened by the progress of AI. The main concerns often revolve around freedom or autonomy, moral agency, and democracy. An important feature of the literature is that if experts establish the appropriate values we would like to see realized at different levels of creating and launching artificial intelligence, and experts find a way to implement them cautiously, then it will be more or less possible for humans to retain the necessary power over AI. Although it must be added that, as some pessimist scholars claim, that this retainment of power can only be a temporary solution, the initial idea is that there is no certainty that at some point AI will not eventually undermine or circumvent the human intentions behind regulatory norms. The civilizational level risks by which the literature addresses the whole challenge, it is understood something like a threat to the values that are at the center of contemporary moral and political discourse, or risks associated with the ethos of liberalism or ethos of liberal democracy and liberal democratic ideas such as freedom and autonomy. Not only the problems are addressed with affinity to the broader liberal and liberal democratic values, norms, and institutions, but the offered solutions are also understood in relation to the same framework. And this framework in AI ethics misleadingly suggests that we must elaborate the necessary values and implement them into AI systems to ensure that AI operates according to human intentions. AI regulation contains a paradox, in my view. Since AI is an artificially created intelligence, it cannot be entirely regulated in preventive ways. There is always a possibility that it will misinterpret some specified norms, especially if they are in conflict with each other, or even worse, it can reconfigure itself according to certain values and norms by additional norms that differ from the previously determined ones. I already pointed out some of the normative questions, that is, what normative standards should direct the integration of AI into politics and society. You may be familiar with some of the ethical guidelines that aim at finding and implementing the appropriate norms to AI, such as autonomy, transparency, the retainment of human oversight, safety, privacy, fairness, and non-discrimination, just to mention a few. And political theory concerns the meaning of these values as well. It is not enough to say that we want AI to be transparent. We must define what do we mean by that transparency. And another important question is about the moral consideration of robots. Should we give them certain rights? And if we should, then what is the justification for this claim? Standard accounts appeal either to the fulfillment of certain necessary conditions, such as sentience, autonomy, a derived moral status, or an observable performance that resembles human activity. Since today we focus on AI regulation, let me go back to the norms and guidelines problem. The regulation-focused literature mistakenly suggests that if the correct moral requirements for regulating AI, such as transparency, are found and implemented, the underlying threats posed by AI will be avoided. The problem with this argument is that it presents AI as a technological rather than a political problem. But still, if we maintain that AI must be held accountable to certain principles, how do we know that we are searching for the right ones? Here, alternative approaches based on different political theories may help us to see that the individualism of liberalism hides certain fundamental elements of human life. That is, our life is deeply embedded in society. There are duties and obligations that fall on us simply by our birth in a certain time in a space and into certain social roles. And some of our social relationships may be deeply unequal, unfair, or even strongly exploitative and oppressive. Therefore, there are scholars who claim that non-domination, that is a stricter conception of freedom than the liberal conception of freedom as non-interference, should direct our inquiry on human-machine interactions, while others claim that dignity should be the primary value in addressing the impact of AI in human lives. As I already claimed, most of the literature is implicitly based on a liberal understanding or framing of the AI problem. For liberals, the challenges that stem from the AI boom are viewed from the perspective of the main values of autonomy. For a liberal, the main challenges of AI are always connected to the violation of our personal autonomy, and it's not surprising that for the liberal, all answers to these problems should be created within the circumstances of liberal democracy. In the liberal democratic view, the threshold for moral justification is related to some actual, tacit, or hypothetical consent of the subject. However, the challenges of AI and even AI regulation stretch beyond the liberal democratic framework. The fear around AI technology is precisely that it potentially transcends the appropriate rules of its regulation and violates social cooperation, or it can harm humans directly. This is well seen in Republican approaches that emphasize the hidden unfreedoms in human-human and human-machine relationships and show that AI can dominate us, and we can also dominate AI or machines in ways that seem to be unproblematic for the liberal. Why? Republicans claim that in certain relationships, in reality, one of the participants depends deeply on the benevolence of the other, as in master-slave relationships, or in the case of husbands and wives in traditional patriarchal marriage, just to mention a common criticism of liberalism by Republicans and feminists. Speaking of feminists, one of the main aspects where feminist theory might be really helpful is care work and especially the implementation of AI-driven technology into elder care, usually in the form of global care chains when the poorly paid and socially unappreciated care work of maintaining daily life in households is predominantly carried out by migrant women in the Northern Hemisphere. Their status and position make them vulnerable and expose them to the dominating relationships with their cared for and other participants. But of course, the carer also has the potential to abuse the cared for. And finally, contemporary realist political theory may come in handy if we would like to understand why AI regulation can never be entirely successful. Realists claim that the political sphere is autonomous from the moral sphere. It has its own norms, and the direct implication for AI is, as a political subject, is that AI-related challenges cannot be resolved simply by applying moral principles into it. I will finish by just explaining this problem in a minute. Let me just raise this fourth dimension, the level of abstraction. So the political theoretical literature usually addresses narrow AI. This is what we face actually. However, there are very interesting works about the challenges and implications of AGI or a possible future superintelligence. Some people do not really care about this because they claim that it is more like science fiction than a real possibility. However, in my view, it is still meaningful to think about strong AI. For example, using a thought experiment and building an analogy between AI and the state. The overarching problem with AI is that there is always a possibility that it will overcome its original empowerment and goes against the will of its creator. This is a long-standing problem of the political sphere. The state is an artificial entity which is in possession of political authority and it's responsible for order. And at the same time, it is the most dangerous entity that could unjustifiably seize power. As we claimed with my co-author, Ujlaki, who will present tomorrow in the afternoon session, AI is a political concept, and it is not only it can be regarded as a mechanism for balancing two persistent dangers of the political realm: the extremes of the disorder of the state of nature and the tyrannical, illegitimate use of force or even terror. Therefore, the idea of AI as a political conception highlights the inherent fragility of the political. And when we are talking about regulation, we must not forget about this fragility. No matter how desirable it would be to fully regulate AI, it is hardly an option. Thank you.